Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you all the gear I brought with me on the Pemi Loop in August 2025. This is all of my gear. Let's go through it piece by piece, starting with my big three. So I did go on this trip with a friend, so we did share some equipment, and I'll flag that as I go through this list. First off, let's talk about my tent. This is the REI Trail Hut 2. It is not in its original stuff sack because I ripped it. This tent is fairly heavy. It weighs about 6 pounds, but we split it between 2 people, so that made it a lot less bad. Next up, have my backpack. This is the Hyperlight Southwest 55-liter backpack, and this was the first backpacking trip that I took this pack on. I used to have an Osprey Aura AG50. I actually still have it. I just don't use it because it's not super comfortable on my body. Overall, I really liked the Hyperlight. The only downside to this pack is that there is no back padding. So this is just a panel of Dyneema. And personally, I get a lot of back sweat. So that was a little gross, but honestly, the comfort of the pack compared to the Osprey on my body made it so worth it. And I was pretty willing to suffer with a little bit of back sweat. Next up, let's move on to my quilt. I have an Enlightened Equipment Revelation. This is and I have a 30-degree quilt. This is about a 40-degree comfort rated quilt. I find for summer in the white, this is really great for me. This is stored right now in its big, large sack because it's best to store quilts unstuffed. But this compresses down really, really small when I put it inside my backpack. Moving on to the rest of my sleep system. I have the Nemo Tensor insulated sleeping pad. I don't know that they still make this version. I think they make something that's very similar. And then for my pillow, I have this little Sea to Summit Aeros pillow. This is fantastic. For a while, I found it to be actually a little bit uncomfortable. And then I realized that if I just didn't inflate it all the way, if I inflated it somewhere between 50 and 75%, it became so much more comfortable. So if you find that your inflatable pillows aren't comfortable, highly recommend just experimenting with how much you inflate them. Next, let's move on to my trekking poles. These are a pair of Black Diamond trekking poles. These are pretty old. I think these are over 8 years old. You can see that they are pretty beat up, and I've lost actually one of the baskets on one of the poles. These are fantastic. They've really held up over a long period of time. I do a lot of hiking in the Whites and the Adirondacks, which really tend to beat on equipment. So I've been very happy with the performance of these. Next up, let's move on to food and water. So this was my food bag. This is a 20-liter EcoPack bag. I'll show you the whole thing. And this one is made by Hilltop Equipment. It also comes with a little wash bag, just in case I have to hang it along the Pemi Loop. All of the designated tent sites, so Garfield Ridge Tent Site, and Geo Tent Site, and Liberty Springs Tent Site, all have bear boxes. So I didn't have to hang it, but I just brought this along just in case. Next up, let's talk about my water bottles. I just use smart water bottles. These are cheap, and I can screw them directly onto my filter. I have a Sawyer Squeeze filter. Inside this bag I have a couple of the different adapters, but the one that is relevant here is this little adapter. This is fantastic because this allows you to screw a smart water bottle or anything that has 22 millimeter threads, so Miko bottles, soda bottles, variety of other standard narrow mouth water bottles directly onto the Sawyer Squeeze. And I found that this is really nice because that means I can set up the Sawyer to gravity filter water. I have this 2-liter CNOC bag. And what I'll do with this is I'll place the CNOC bag inside of this mesh bag. The mesh bag has a loop where I can hang it on a tree, and then I connect the CNOC into the Sawyer Squeeze into a water bottle or into a platypus bladder, and then I'm able to filter water while I do other camp chores. And I found this is just really, really nice. The other water item I have is this hose. This is by One Bottle Hydration, and this is a really neat piece of gear where you just screw this hose into your water bottle, and then it acts like a bladder, except you don't have to deal with the hassle of bringing your water bottle in and out of your backpack. I really, really love this piece of gear, and it definitely helps me drink a lot more water on trail. This is the MSR Pocket Rocket. I really like it because it's really small, it's really reliable, and it served me really well. It just screws directly onto the fuel canister. That becomes your base. Put the pot on top. Boom, boiling water. When I'm actually backpacking, I actually will package my Pocket Rocket inside of my pot with a bandana or something, just so it doesn't clink around, and that's worked really well for me. I also bring a long-handled spoon. Typically I eat freeze-dried or dehydrated meals, and this is really great for getting into the bottom of the bag. Next, I have my electronics bag. I just had this small Sea to Summit 2-liter dry sack. Makes it easy to find my electronics in my first aid kit. Inside, I keep my headlamp. I keep an analog compass. I have a Nightcore 10,000 milliamp hour battery. And then I also have my first aid kit. If you're interested to see what's in my first aid kit, I have a whole video that breaks out everything that I keep inside this bag. I also keep sunscreen, chapstick, hand sanitizer, and toothpaste. The sunscreen, chapstick, and hand sanitizer usually are just in the hip belt pockets of my backpack, whereas the toothpaste usually rides along with my food. I also have my toothbrush. Speaking of other hygiene products, I do bring a cool cloth, and I also bring a pea style. Next, I'll move on to clothing. So for my hiking outfit, I chose to wear long sleeves and long pants, even though it was August in the whites. And this is because a lot of the Pemi Loop is very exposed, and I'm very fair-skinned, and I didn't want to deal with slathering my whole body with sunscreen. This sun hoodie is really great. This is also my first trip in this sun hoodie. I have other ones, but I really wanted one that had buttons down the front. And the reason why I like that is because you're able to mechanically vent the sun hoodie if you're somewhere shady or if you're really overheating. And this also has buttons. Find a sleeve. Sorry for the shaky camera work. It also has buttons on the sleeve, so I'm able to unbutton the sleeve at the bottom, and then I can roll it up, and this is a really great way for me to be able to cool down while I'm hiking. These are my hiking pants. These are the Patagonia Terrebonne joggers. This was actually my first trip where I decided to fully commit and hike in long pants, just because I knew I was going to be taking on some pretty exposed hikes this year in 2026, and I wanted to kind of use the Pemi Loop as an opportunity to shake down a lot of the stuff that I had. These joggers, in terms of breathability and comfort, were really, really great. They're very lightweight. They dry really fast. The only issue with them, and the reason why I probably won't wear them on another backpacking trip again, is this particular color is horrible with sweat stains. I'm fine with getting a little stinky in the woods, getting a little sweaty. It's gonna happen on a backpacking trip. When the stains are so bad that most of the pictures taken of me from behind are unusable, that's where I draw the line. So going on to some of my other clothing that I wore, I had this Cotopaxi hat. This is just a 5-panel hat. I find for me, if I try to wear a hat with a curved brim while I'm hiking, I get really bad hat angst, and I just want to rip my hat off. The hats with a flat brim work really well for me. This is my sleep outfit. This is just a pair of generic black leggings, and then I have this REI t-shirt. This is just super soft. I also have a pair of sunglasses that I wore. These are just a pair of Gooder generic sunglasses. You can see my reflection. And I don't have it with me right now, but I also had just like a sunglasses leash that I put these on, and that was nice for when I was hiking along an exposed ridge. Moving on, I brought along a raincoat. This is the Outdoor Research Aspire 2, I think. It's a very lightweight rain jacket. I also use this as my windbreaker. This is my fleece. This is the Senshi Alpha 90 fleece. It has a scuba style hood, it has thumb holes, and it has a quarter zip. I really like this fleece. It's very lightweight. It weighs 4-point-something ounces. I'll put the exact number down here in the video. This has been wonderful. I really like this piece of gear. I also have my sports bra. This is just a REI sports bra that unfortunately they discontinued, which is a big bummer because this is my favorite hiking sports bra. I like designs that aren't razor back, and this one is really comfortable. I think this is the Take Your Time bra. I also brought underwear. These are just the Icebreaker Siren merino wool underwear. They're pretty okay. I've since found other merino wool underwear that I like more, and I'll be posting about those in an upcoming video. I have my socks next. I tend to really splurge on bringing socks backpacking. I have 2 pairs of just regular Darn Tough micro crew socks. And then I also have a pair of Injinji toe socks. And the reason why I bring these are my camp socks, is because I like to be that menace on trail who wears socks with sandals. So I will go menace the campsite in my toe socks inside my fan sandals so my feet can stay cozy. These are my camp shoes. These are Luna sandals. One of the reasons why I really like these sandals, and I have these instead of Chacos or Tevas or whatever else people wear, is because this is fully one loop around, and I have feet that are 2 different sizes. So this really allows me to customize the fit of these sandals to my particular feet. And they also have Vibram soles, which is really nice because when I'm walking around a steep campsite, I can be confident that my feet aren't going to be sliding around. Lastly, I have my hiking boots. These are the Ultra Lone Peak Hiker 3s. I really like hiking in Ultras, specifically the Lone Peak model, because I have very wide toes. This makes sure that I don't have foot pain from my feet being pinched by my shoes. And then lastly, I have these little gaiters, some T-Rexes in space. These just have some Velcro on the back, so I did super glue on Velcro patches to the back of my boots. And these have worked great just to keep debris out of my shoes, and you get a lot of that in the whites. And that's it for my Pemi Loop list. This summer, I'm going to be taking on the John Muir Trail, so if you enjoyed this gear list, you should definitely subscribe to my channel because I'm currently working on perfecting my JMT gear list, and I'll be sharing updates right here. Comment down below if you'd like to see any specific reviews of the items I have. I am a huge gear nerd, and I really like talking about backpacking gear in great detail, and I'm more than happy to do a deep dive on any item that you're interested in. Turn on the bell to make sure you don't miss any of my posts, and I'll see you all next time. Bye everybody!